Hi YouTube, I'm very excited today. I'm very happy to be able to quote you some things that I've been thinking for ages, and to have it confirmed by a bloomin' saint is something I'm just so happy about. I've always thought that, I always said that we can transcend the transits, and then when I heard that parasites, like parasites in the body, get triggered by the moon, and then of course we know that prisons, hospitals, lunatic asylums, not that they're called that anymore, but get at a full moon go nuts, and that's either triggering the parasites in the body, or it's triggering the demons in the body. Whatever, parasites, demons, they're all kind of the same. We are a host to those. Sorry, aeroplane. So along those lines, I thought, well, yeah, the planets can control. If we're not in control of ourselves, they're more likely to control. And if we're weak in our body as well, if our will isn't strong, then we're more likely to be swayed. We can't override the planets. We are sort of putty in their hands, if you like. And I also thought the reason that when we do mundane astrology, that it works so well is that the collective, unfortunately, I think there's most of us, I'm not saying I'm some wonderful person who is beyond transits. My God, I get affected by transits too. And my ambition now, because of the Pluto one coming along, is that I want to raise my vibration so I can, I don't suffer that much from it, hopefully, because it's a biggie for me. But yeah, so what I wanted to say about mundane astrology, the reason that you can sort of make general predictions about what's going to happen in the world at large is because most people are not really aware of their transits, and most people, aren't spiritually evolved enough to override the collective pressure, because we're a herd species, and we do get affected by the environment, and we do get affected by the culture, we're cells in a culture, and the planets are part of that. And it's like, it takes a strong person to be singing in the rain. Most of the time this is a lovely sunny day and I'm in a great mood because it's sunny, and everyone loves the sun, unless not everyone does. Some people go, oh, it's too hot. But anyway, so if you're happy within yourself, you are not so dependent on outside influences, and that's people around you, that's the mood of people around you, and also, of course, the planets that are part of this whole thing. And God created all of these things, so the planets are part of God's, we're all part of it. So I'm not sure. I don't think they are. I was saying in the last one that, I think the planets could be archons. I'm not sure now. No, I don't think so. Maybe they're not. But anyway. So yes, I found this quote from Thomas Aquinas, and I'm going to read it to you now. It means I'm on my phone, so we'll see. Okay, I'm going to have to just record this, not video, audio, because I tried doing it and it wouldn't do at the same time. So anyway, this quote here we go. So Thomas Aquinas, it must be observed that throughout the whole of nature, all movement proceeds from the immovable. Therefore, the more immovable certain things are, the more they are the cause of things that are most movable. The heavenly bodies are the most immovable, for they are not moved save locally. And that's the thing, I thought, well, they do move. They move, they orbit. But you can't move them from their orbit, so you cannot move them. They just have their cycles. So therefore, the movements of the bodies here below, which are various and multiform, must be referred to the movement of the heavenly bodies as to their cause. And then as to whether they cause human actions, he says, it must be observed, however, that indirectly and accidentally, the impressions of the heavenly bodies can reach the intellect and will, forasmuch, namely, as both intellect and will receive something from the inferior powers which are affixed to the corporal organs. So when he says inferior powers, I'm just wondering again, is he talking, he must be talking about the planets, because they are inferior to God. Like Mars rules the blood and things like that. So yeah, okay. But in this, the intellect and will are differently situated. For the intellect, of necessity, receives from the inferior apprehensive powers. Wherefore, if the imaginative, cognitive, or memorative powers be disturbed, the act of the intellect is of necessity disturbed also. So the intellect, I guess this is the monkey mind, this is our brain, does get affected by the imagination, our way of thinking, and our memories. So it can be disturbed. So it can be disturbed by the planets. The will, on the contrary, does not, of necessity, follow the inclination of the inferior appetite. For although the passions in the irascible and conscupiscible, I don't know what that word is, I think that's to do with blood, irascible and concupiscible, have a certain force in inclining the will, nevertheless the will retains the power of following the passions or repressing them. Therefore, the impressions of the heavenly bodies, by virtue of which the inferior powers can be changed, has less influence on the will, which is the proximate cause of human actions, than on the intellect. So the heavenly bodies have less influence on your will than the monkey mind. Then he says the spiritual substances that move the heavenly bodies, so this I think is God, we talk about God here, or angels, do indeed act on corporal things by means of the heavenly bodies, but they act immediately on the human intellect by enlightening it. On the other hand, they cannot compel the will. So you can be influenced by angels and good spiritual powers, and it can enlighten you. But again, they can't compel you still. You can ignore the messages from God, I guess. God, Jesus, whatever you want to call it. And then he says, the majority of men follow their passions, which are movements of the sensitive appetite, in which movements of the heavenly bodies can cooperate. But few are wise enough to resist these passions. Consequently, astrologers are able to foretell the truth in the majority of cases, especially in a general way, but not in particular cases, for nothing prevents man resisting his passions by his free will. Wherefore, the astrologers themselves are wont to say that the wise man is stronger than the stars. And he's quoting Ptolemy here. Forasmuch as, to wit, he conquers his passions. So that's the thing. If you go for a reading and you resist Pluto, then an astrologer, you see, the astrologer can't predict whether you're going to say yes or no. That's the thing. They can say that you might be tempted, but they're not going to say whether you can. They can't say whether you could say you'll say yes or no, because, and anything that is a consequence of that, because you have control of your will. So the fisheaters.com, who published this, say then, to summarise everything, in other words, according to the father of scholasticism, which is St Thomas Aquinas, yes, the heavenly bodies not only may, but do influence us on a corporal level, which includes the intellect to some degree, and the will to a lesser degree. But the will cannot be overridden by any such influence. The will is supreme. However, because so many men allow themselves to be ruled by their passions, form bad habits, and don't exercise their will in the right way, the power the heavenly bodies may exert upon them is more evident. Or, to put it another way, the heavenly bodies may influence our inclinations and basic personalities, but that influence only has the power we grant to it, that we allow it to have, by not using our will to overcome any negative inclinations they may cause. Yes, totally agree. An analogy: the stars may influence what cards we're dealt in a game of poker, and they may influence how we play our hand, but they can't determine how we play our hand unless we refuse to use our will to play the hand correctly. So that's it. And they also say, in addition to such writings, you will also find many church fathers who wrote against astrology, but they refer to astrology as practiced at that time, astrology done wrong, astrology that ignores free will, astrology that crosses the line into divination, and divination denies free will. How many times have I said that? How many bloody times? Sorry. Isn't that marvellous? Just so... I don't know if you're as excited about it as I am, but it just means to me that I can practice. I have been, this is such a revelation to me, because for the last probably 2 years, I have been really in bits about this whole thing about free will versus, astrology, and how does it work? How does it work? I never liked the comparison to divination. I really didn't like that. I don't like when you get people saying, will I have children? Will I this? All these things, you cannot predict them. And the thing is, I was worried that, if I say I can't predict, am I just not going to get readings? Because people will want to go to a psychic or someone that can tell them exactly what's going to happen to them. I have been to a few psychics in my time, and some have been right, but not very. But I would say, I'm sorry if this offends some psychics, but honestly, their intuition is on point. But again, it would mean that I was just so easy to read and so predictable. You're just going, you're not in control of your life, basically. So, whereas knowing what the astrological weather is going to be like, that's different. And I've always thought that, which is why I was drawn to astrology more than tarot reading or anything like that. I know that I'm going to try now. I don't really want to do, when I do my astrology readings, sometimes I'm going to tap into going down the intuitive route. And I've done that before, but I think it makes me tired. I want to just read the planets, their courses, they're immovable. You can't change a transit, I'm not God. And I'm just reading the weather. And at least I can sort of suggest what you can do with this weather. And remember that video I did years ago saying, prediction is bad for you. I thought, what am I doing? I'm shooting myself in the foot here, because everyone wants predictions. And, most the people that make big money on YouTube are saying, I'm going to predict this, no, we've all got free will, Unfortunately, like I said, some humans are very easy to predict because they're just going with the flow. They're just doing they're doing the hive mind. Anyway, so that's it, and hope you enjoyed that. I'm blown away by that quote, and I'm just so glad I came across it. So I'm going to do a series, I think. Let me know if this is going to be interesting, because it may not be, but there is the Christian constellations, the Christian zodiac, and there is a saint, there's an apostle for each sign, and there's Mary Magdalene is Cassiopeia. Like even all the rest of the constellations have a Christian equivalent. So I would like to just get into it and do it just for myself, just to study it, and while I'm studying it, you know, tell you all about it as well, and see whether they match up, you know, see if they do, because I think that'll be really interesting. Anyway, okay, so let me know if you're interested in the Christian zodiac. I mean, wow. And I'll get on to it. All right then, so take care. Bye.